Hey guys, what's going on? Today I wanted to talk about two of the biggest mysteries in cosmology, dark matter and dark energy, and relate them, of course, to fields. We know what dark matter is. Actually, we don't know what dark matter is, but we know dark matter is there because when we look through our telescopes and we measure where the galaxies are going and how they're moving and how they're behaving, there isn't enough solid material to give rise to the observed gravitational effect that we actually see. So it looks like the amount of energy momentum in a galaxy, all the stars and the black hole at the center and everything, all of that matter doesn't add up to keeping the whole thing together. So essentially, cosmologists came up with the intuition that there must be some sort of other material there that is responsible for producing that gravitational effect. But nevertheless, that gravitational effect is, of course, a field. Dark matter is not actually a material at all, but rather another field effect. That is, dark matter, as will be found out to be, is going to be a property of space, but a property of space that operates on a Galaxian type scale. And of course, it's just like with all fields, it permeates right through us and right through everything, but its main property effect is much bigger and totally unnoticeable, and it would be completely unnoticeable if we didn't have our telescopes. And the second thing that we also discovered with using our telescopes is dark energy. And dark energy is, of course, what is responsible for the expansion of the universe. Actually, the acceleration of the expansion of the universe. Now, we've known the universe has been expanding in its size since Hubble carefully measured the heavens and realized that, yes, the galaxies that are far away from us are in fact getting farther away from us. He could tell this by measuring the redshift of the electromagnetic waves coming to him from those galaxies. So this told him that the universe was expanding. And then, fast forward to the 90s, and we had two independent teams who both measured the expansion, but what they found was the expansion of the universe is accelerating. It's getting faster and faster all the time. And their data was so good that pretty much the entire scientific community adopted this weird idea of a dark energy out in the middle of nowhere. And basically what dark energy is, it is of course a field because it is a property of space itself. And it is a property of space that can only take effect when the major other fields, like the metric field, where her weight or her reach kind of loses all value. So when the metric field doesn't have a strong gravitational pull in it, and you get really far out in between galaxies where there's really not a whole lot of stuff going on, other than there being some radiant electromagnetic radiation and a few quantum condensates, because space isn't really empty. But anyways, way out there in the middle of nowhere, you have this new field effect, which is dark energy, and it's just basically a property of space that takes effect way out there. And it's the property of the space out there is that it expands it. And it does this at an accelerating rate because every time you have one piece of space expands, then you've created a new area or new volume for more space to expand within that space, and then add so on ad infinitum, and then you get this logarithmic exponential, whichever one, I don't know which one, I'm not a mathematician, but you get this exponentially expanding rate, and it just gets faster and faster and faster. So I think dark energy and dark matter are going to be seen to be fields, that is properties of space having physical effects. Dark matter is of course not a real material. It's something more akin to like photons. And the same thing with dark energy. And I don't think dark energy is a real energy, because if it were, then that would collapse the entire pillar of physics known as the conservation of energy, which of course we all know can neither be created nor destroyed. So dark energy is obviously not really an energy, but rather a property of space. And in this sense, fields are not real objects in the sense of being a physical object. It's a property of space. And a property itself is already a sort of ethereal concept. And finally, why I'm standing in front of this beautiful picture by J.R. Slattum, this painting is called Path of Heart, and what it shows is a mountain in the shape of a meditator who has a waterfall coming out of his chest. And to me, what this signifies to me is the eternal efflorescence of the universe, and the fact that the entire universe, everywhere and anywhere, is a constantly blossoming flower. So in this sense, we all participate in the movement of the universe, and we all create by this function. And when I think about dark energy, it's kind of a something coming from nothing as a property of space. It's just a constantly blossoming effect. And that's what I feel like sometimes when I reach a good place in meditation, I feel like this mountain meditating with this waterfall coming out of him. Because it feels like, for some odd reason, it's just coming out of you. It just pours out of you like a fountain, and it's an absolutely blissful feeling, and it is a state of meditative realization. I don't know why it's a thing, or why it's not even an experience, but it's a beautiful experience, and I think it's very beautifully captured by this painting. And that's what I think J.R. Slattum was getting at when he was painting this. I could be wrong. I mean, art is maybe interpreted by different people in different ways, but nevertheless, this is a beautiful painting, and it means a lot to me because it signifies that sort of realization, or that state of realization that one can have when meditating, when they reach an altered state or rare state of consciousness, where they just feel absolutely blissful and like the world is pouring out of them, that they themselves are. And it's just a beautiful experience. And I think, it also, we can think of dark energy as a sort of similar, incessant, or ceaseless unceasing. And finally, before I go, just to mention, I do think consciousness is a field, but also consciousness is consciousness, and I think still remains mysterious, even if we do think of it as a field. And this is sort of a panpsychist, pan-experientialist view, but I do think consciousness as a field permeates the entire universe, and all objects are sitting in the field of consciousness, although not all objects are conscious. So I think you need to have a certain level of energetic complexity, because I think life is the opposite of entropy, whereas entropy is moving towards a more chaotic state. Life actually gathers and structures energy, so it's negative entropy. So life gathers and structures energy in a way that it then becomes more and more complex, and the more complex it gets, then it can start resonating in the mind field, because it's a field that's already there. So by this I mean to say not everything is conscious, even though all things might be sitting in the mind field, just like all things are sitting in the gravitational field and all feel its effects. But with regards to the mind field, everything might be sitting in the mind field, but if it doesn't have a sort of inherent complexity and a curious function that's kind of like Ouroboros, where the snake's eating his tail, because that's what life does, it consumes itself. So the way life works is it manipulates or transmutes energy into a different sort of entity, which is consciousness. But I think the way life works by transmuting energy into consciousness, it's manipulating energy in such an inherently complex way that it actually accesses a field that's already there. But not everything's conscious, because not everything has that sort of élan vital of living creatures, living biological beings. So I think like I said last time, I think a single cell is the quanta of the mind field, because as it's the biological seed charge that then accesses the mind field. You can also think of it like this. There's an electron field that permeates the entire universe, and way out where dark energy is happening, there's not a lot of electrons out there, but nevertheless there's an electron field out there. So I think of it in that way. So I do think as energy grows and structures itself with greater inherent complexity, that inherent complexity is what then allows it to access the field of consciousness more deeply and expand consciousness. So you have levels of sentience all the way up throughout the entire animal kingdom, with it reaching its peak in human beings. I don't hate to sound anthropocentric, but Nobody else is building cars and skyscrapers around here, and we do have pretty profound levels of consciousness, and we are aware of the world in a multiplicity of ways. But yeah, to go way back, I do think dark matter and dark energy are fields. They're just new properties of space that we're just getting familiar with. They're still mysterious because they're hard to study because they're, well, technically invisible, just like all other fields. But they permeate the entire universe. And I think it will be found out that dark matter and dark energy are fields. So I hope that gave you guys maybe a better intuition of what fields are, because they're really not a standard physical object in the sense of being a material solid thing, even though they're all responsible for giving rise to all solid things and even mind, I think. Anyways, as always, guys, thanks for watching.